What's up, everybody? It's my first video ever. Today we're going to be analyzing JX My High Roller's video, his newest video, the greatest MVP race of our time. So, let's go into full screen for you.
We are now just a few weeks away from the end of the 2025 NBA regular season, and by this point, the MVP race is usually all but wrapped up. But what do you do when there's two MVPs? History says you vote for the guy who is leading his team to the most wins of any team in a decade while putting up prime Michael Jordan numbers.
That's just stupid. We're 19 seconds into the video and it's already making me mad. Yeah, they might have won the best. They might be on the best team and still win the award, but they should probably give it to a lower team or a lower player who's been carrying a good team. Like Cade in the Pistons, dude's been averaging 25 points, and he's carrying the Pistons, who are now the 5th seed.
Very clearly the best player on the best team, which should make this decision pretty obvious. Except it's not, because history has never seen a season like the one Nikola Jokic is having. It's better than this one and this one.
Well, Jokic is averaging 30, 12, and 10, I'm pretty sure. He's averaging a triple-double, which is rarely ever done. But if you look at his teammate, Westbrook, who has done it multiple times, I'm pretty sure about 4. He didn't win MVP 3 other times. He won it once, averaging 30, 10, and 10, I'm pretty sure. But it's also like Jokic isn't athletic like Russ was. Russ was the most athletic specimen we've ever seen in his MVP year and his OKC tenure. But there's something off about Jokic that seems like he's like fooling the media, but he's not. I don't know.
And this one. In fact, it is possibly the most impactful season anyone has ever had. 2 all-time great campaigns and only 1 trophy. It is the greatest MVP race in recent history, and it has left voters completely torn, questioning what it even means to be the NBA's most valuable player. Today's video is sponsored by DraftKings. Just choose one pick 6 offer. The most compelling case someone can make to be the most valuable player in the league is to put up the best numbers in the league. This isn't the only ingredient to the MVP recipe, but it's a big one. And right now, Jokic and Shai aren't just having the 2 best seasons in the NBA, they're having 2 of the best seasons of all time. Just looking at some simple box score numbers, Nikola Jokic jumps off the screen like the...
Yeah, so Jokic, you can see it already. Jokic is averaging a triple-double. And even though he has less points than Shai, Luka still averaged 33 last year, didn't win it. He also averaged more rebounds and assists, Luka Doncic, last year than Shai is doing now. And if Shai wins it, then that means Luka should have won it. And there's something that doesn't really correlate. They're both averaging 1.8 steals, which is really hard to do. Even though Dyson Daniels on the Hawks is averaging 3, there's something just... Jokic shouldn't have that many steals. He should have a little more blocks, even though he's not athletic enough. And then Shai, I don't really know Shai's vertical, but I'm pretty sure it's late 30s. I don't know. And then their field goal percentage, Jokic doing better, Shai doing better for 3 free throws. Yeah, he's been there like 12 times per game. I mean, his recent like views, Shai has been grabbing people, flopping on purpose, which is common in the NBA, but the refs don't it doesn't make sense what the refs are doing. They're calling fouls when no foul was committed, if you get what I mean. And then Jokic 41 from 3. it doesn't make sense. He's an unathletic center. I don't get how he's making threes, and Shea is only shooting 37, which is still good. But I'm pretty sure as the best player on your team, and maybe in the NBA, not in my personal opinion, you should have a little bit more.
The obvious favorite. A near 30-point triple-double on nearly the best efficiency in the entire league, and the first player to ever be top 3 in points, rebounds, and assists. Numbers that make
Really? Top 3? Huh.
Shea's season look a bit pedestrian, despite being historic. 33, 5, and 6 on at least 60% true shooting is a stat line that has only been achieved by 3 other players in the history of the NBA. Michael Jordan, James Harden, and Luka Doncic across
Yeah, there he is, Luka.
5 different seasons, although none of them were as efficient from the floor as Shea is this season. However, box score numbers by themselves have never been quite enough to compel voters. Of these 5 previous seasons, only one of them ended up winning the MVP, Michael Jordan in '88. And to pull it off, he had to also be the best defensive player in the league.
I'm very surprised that Harden didn't win it, averaging 36. I don't get why he didn't win it, and he would have 2 right now. Even though he should have won it, or at least taken time before. Yeah, Harden was averaging 30 something points, but so was Westbrook. Westbrook was averaging 30, 10, and 10, which is a little bit more compelling than Houston Rockets Harden averaging 30 points, 8 assists, 5. It's still good numbers, don't get me wrong. That's MVP level numbers, but Russ was doing a lot more. And not to glaze Russ or anything, like he's my favorite player. He was just like those 2 guys, along with Curry, KD, and LeBron, who were all just dominating the NBA, who also had to compete with the other guys. So you have like tons of players just lining up for that MVP status. Only one can win it. That's just my hot take.
In the case of Jokic, there's only been one season in modern NBA history that compares to his, Russell Westbrook in 2017. And that season, he was the runaway MVP, receiving 69 of the total 101 first-place votes. The glaring difference between these 2 seasons? The mile-wide gap in their efficiency. Nearly a decade and some of the most absurd statistical seasons later, and the upgraded version of Westbrook's MVP season not only doesn't warrant a runaway victory for the award, it may not even win it. But these numbers hardly even scratch the surface of the impact and value these 2 provide every game. If we take a deeper look into some of their more advanced numbers, we can see just how remarkable Shea and Jokic have been this season and why the MVP race is as close as it is. To put into perspective the caliber of season these 2 are having, LeBron at his absolute statistical peak had a box plus minus of 13.24. Steph Curry at his absolute best had a BPM of 11.94. This season, Jokic has a box plus minus of 13.21, and Shea is at 11.58. Choosing between Jokic and SGA this season is like picking between 09 LeBron and 20.
Really? David Robinson at 11? I mean, you have tons of Nikola Jokic's, Michael Jordan, you have 1 LeBron, and Steph Curry at 9. David Robinson, really? I'm pretty sure Hakeem won it that year. Or did someone fact check that for me? Did Hakeem win it in 95 or 94? Or did David Robinson win it in 94? He must have had, if he has a box plus minus of 11.8.
2016 Steph. Good luck. For the last half-decade, Jokic has led the league in just about every advanced metric by about a mile. But this season, Shea has threatened Jokic's spot and even dethroned him at times as the best player in the league. A feat that, in and of itself, is probably the most impressive thing he's done all season. On any given night, either one of them can look like the most impactful player on the planet. And even looking at advanced numbers, the edge is only slightly in Jokic's favor. Crafted.
That's true. Whenever there's a game, like, on Real, on the app called Real, all about sports stats, if you go to, like, the top 10 best players, whoever's in the top 5, it's usually Jokic, Shea, Sometimes LeBron's in there, and Luka's mostly in there now. Before his injury, I'm pretty sure he was still up there. But Jokic dominates every chance he plays, and so does Shea. Shea's dropping 54, 5, and 6 with 2 steals. No one's doing that on a daily basis besides Shea or Jokic. Jokic might not average 50 points. He's still getting triple-doubles left and right.
The NBA has Jokic as the best player in the NBA this season, with Shea right behind him, and then a really big gap, and then everyone else. Estimated plus minus, on the other hand, has Shea as the best player in the league this season, with Jokic right behind him, and then huge gap, everyone else. A quick glance at any of these catch-all statistics will tell you that Jokic and SGA are both historically and almost equally as dominant this season. Fortunately for those who are put to the difficult task of choosing between Jokic and SGA for MVP, these numbers have never been a direct indication of who will or who should win the award. Over the last 2 decades, the best or most impactful player in the NBA in any given season, according to some of the best advanced metrics.
Look at some of these names here. We have Jokic in all of these. In the most recent 5 years, Jokic has been first and then second in 2023. Yeah, he didn't win. He probably should have won, but if you look at Embiid's stats, who won it in 2023, he was averaging more points and more rebounds, I'm pretty sure. Let's see, Kawhi in 2017, third. Chris Paul, sometimes Manu Ginobili in 07. Okay. Let's see, more Jokic in stats equals MVP. Okay. Estimated plus minus. Yeah, Shea is up. He's second in MVP last year. Or that might be this year. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's last year, though. More Chris Paul. Not much LeBron. Yeah, 2013, 2010, and 09, he was there as well. And then a lot more LeBron James in box plus minus, as well as Curry, Harden, and then more Jokic.
Ended up winning the MVP award only about half of the time. Many times these are cases where the individual numbers were backed with regular season team success, but rarely have the numbers alone, regardless of how great they were, been enough to be crowned the most valuable player in the league. In fact, if putting up the best stats automatically made a player the MVP, voting for the award wouldn't even be necessary. So in terms of sheer individual numbers, there isn't a very compelling case to be made in either direction. Jokic's numbers are better, but without more context, their dominance from game to game is virtually the same. So we need to add more context. How are these performances impacting their team? And to what extent does their historic production lead their team to success?
What are you still doing here? You still have not downloaded Pi Adblock? You know I'm just gonna keep showing up on your screen.
That does correlate a lot.
In most cases, when two players are having incredible seasons, the tiebreaker in the eyes of fans and voters comes down to how well their team is playing. The second ingredient to the MVP recipe: win and win often. 25 of the last 30 MVPs went to players who clinched either the first or second seed in their conference. And right now, the Thunder aren't just winning more games than the Nuggets. They are the 4th highest winning team in modern NBA history. But recently, team success has held less weight in the MVP discussion than it has in the past. 3 of the last 4 MVPs going to players outside of the top 2 seeds. Nikola Jokic being just the 2nd player in over 40 years to win the MVP, despite his team not even cracking 50 wins.
That's crazy, though. Under 50 wins and you're an MVP. As well as Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid's, I'm pretty sure, the only MVP to win it, and their team hasn't even gone past or in the Eastern Conference Finals. Otherwise than that, I have no more to say.
In a full season back in 2021, as if the voters have made the decision that the MVP isn't limited to simply the best player on the best team, but rather the player who has the largest impact on a winning team. And right now, there is one player in basketball who is impacting the game far more than anyone else. Here are the current top 8 leaders in the MVP race: Jokic, Shea, Giannis, Tatum, Mitchell, Curry, Mobley, and LeBron. And here are the net ratings of each of their teams.
Hold up. Was that MVP ratings? Hold on, real quick.
Who is impacting the game far more than anyone else.
Oh.
Here are the current top 8 leaders in the MVP race: Jokic, Shea, Giannis, Tatum, Mitchell, Curry, Mobley, and LeBron. And here are the net ratings of each of their teams. Shea has put on...
So, when we look at this, Jokic, he's kind of in the middle of it. Giannis, also not that much. Shea, a lot. He is the most, as we see here. He's just also entertaining, and so is their team, because they're winning a lot more games. But the Lakers aren't winning a lot. I mean, yeah, they are the 4th or 5th seed, but it's like, how do I say it? They're not winning enough games for LeBron to win MVP, or yeah, they're giving up good like crowd ratings, but it's also just LeBron who's doing most of the work because he's the greatest player of all time. There's no doubt about that. Argue with a wall. Curry, he's one of the most, or if not the most, influential players of all time. Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley, I don't get. Evan Mobley should not be on this list. It should be replaced with somebody else. Donovan Mitchell, he's brought a little bit to the list, not so much. Tatum, yeah, he's the defending champion. Well, his team is the defending champion. Boston, their fan base is just iconic, really loud, really annoying. But if you're a Celtics fan, don't hate me. Just actually, if you want to hate me, I don't really care. Just talking about basketball. It's just basketball at the end of the day.
On a masterclass all season, leading the Thunder to be not just the most dominant team this season, but the second most dominant regular season team in NBA history in terms of net rating. And for many people, the overwhelming team success the Thunder have had this season is enough to push Shea into the lead for the MVP. But value isn't just when your team wins. It is how much your team depends on you to win. If we look at each team's net rating when their MVP candidate is on the floor, it is clear that the Thunder are easily the best team in the league when Shea is on the court, with an absurd net rating of plus 18.3. This means that when Shea is on the floor, the Thunder are nearly 20 points better than their opponents per 100 possessions, followed by the Cavs with Mobley, the Cavs with Mitchell, and the Nuggets with Jokic. But the most revealing measure is the difference a player makes for their team when they're on the court versus when they're off the court, where Nikola Jokic jumps out as by far the most valuable and important player to his team in the entire...
That's true as well. Jokic, the Nuggets without Jokic would be terrible. Yeah, you might have Jamal Murray, Westbrook, Christian Braun. DeAndre Jordan has been good the last couple days, but that's about it. The Denver Nuggets would be one of the most trash franchises without Jokic. They don't have anyone good besides those players I've named in the past couple days. DeAndre Jordan gets like 3 minutes per game. He's not putting up 30-point triple-doubles. It is crazy how much Jokic matters to the Nuggets and to actually the entire league. It's crazy.
Our league. His presence on the floor is the difference between the Nuggets being a net negative 8.2 points, bordering the worst team in the NBA, and a plus 10.6, one of the best teams in the NBA. For many of these MVP candidates, their team can still compete at a high level even when they're off the court, like the Celtics without Tatum, the Cavs without Mitchell or without Mobley, the Lakers without LeBron, and the Thunder without Shea. Steph and Giannis are the only other MVP candidates who elevate their teams from below average to title contenders. But without Jokic on the floor this season, the Nuggets are nearly the worst team in the league. Now, it's worth considering who these players play around when they're on the floor. A rotation that tends to keep starters together is bound to favor those in that starting lineup compared to a rotation that pulls and plugs periodically. For example, if Jokic tends to play with starters more often than not, but SGA is constantly playing with rotational players, Jokic's numbers are going to appear better on paper because he's playing alongside a better group. And so I looked into this. How many possessions these MVP candidates have played this season, and how many of those possessions were exclusively with the starting lineup. And it turns out that Nikola Jokic does have the benefit of playing with the best players on the Nuggets more than any of these other candidates play with theirs. 17% of all of his minutes on the court coming alongside the Nuggets starters. For comparison, Steph only plays with the Warriors starting lineup 9% of the time. But in most cases, this number is negligible. For example, Giannis plays with the Bucks starters virtually as much as Jokic plays with his. And at most, the difference in time these players see on the court with their best unit varies by less than 10% of their total playing time. In other words, it doesn't really matter who Jokic is playing around. He rises the tides for his entire team significantly more than anyone else in the entire league. In fact, according to Cleaning the Glass, when you translate these on-off splits to an estimation of impact on Denver's record, the Nuggets are a staggering 45 wins better as a team when Jokic is on the floor versus when he isn't. For comparison, Shea's on-court impact on the Thunder projects to them being about 15 wins better as a team. But this is where the discussion becomes a matter of what you value most in your most valuable player. Because while Jokic elevates the Nuggets to one of the best teams in the league, Shea elevates the Thunder to being one of the best teams of all time. Is it more valuable to drag your team from being bad to being in title contention? Or is it more valuable to elevate your team from title hopefuls to overwhelming title favorites? This is essentially what the MVP race is boiling down to. A player with ungodly numbers propelling his team to compete at a level they have no business being at, or a historically great scoring juggernaut who is the sole leader of the best team in recent history. And the answer to this question may boil down to a third and final ingredient to the MVP award, a factor that is often ultimately decided who has won in the past and will more than likely be the deciding factor this season.
Hold on real quick. So that was a lot to take in. So Jokic is the best player that matters to the league. Yes, Shea is bringing a lot of audience to the Thunder and to the league, but Jokic matters a lot more to the Nuggets. The Nuggets would be one of the worst teams in the NBA currently if they didn't have Jokic. But they have him. That means they're one of the best. They're the third seed in the West, I'm pretty sure. Now, the Thunder can win it without Shea, but it's likely that they won't. Yes, you have J-Dub, who's putting up numbers over 20 plus, and Isaiah Hartenstein and Chet, they might put up a decent amount, but they're not going to win as much games as they've won without Shea. That's why both the MVP candidates have just, they're so compelling to the team that they need to be there. But if they weren't, that the NBA, like, their fan base would be crap. It would be terrible. Without the two MVPs right now, which is bringing fan ratings up, the league would be down in the slumps. When Jokic and Shea are injured and the teams are still playing, yeah, the fan ratings aren't going to be as high as they would, but it's not going to be like there's 2 people watching and 4 people in the stands. This is how much the MVP race matters to the NBA, and as much as I really want Jokic to win, I really think Shea might.
In ESPN's most recent MVP straw poll, 100 members of the media were asked to cast their vote on who they thought was the MVP of the 2025 NBA season. The results? Within the top 5, Donovan Mitchell received 0 first-place votes. So did Tatum, and so did Giannis. Nikola Jokic received 30, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander received 70 of the 100 first-place votes. So far, the media has spoken, and they think Shai is this season's most valuable player. But in more recent surveys asking players, NBA executives, and NBA analysts, out of the 25 votes that were casted, 18 were in favor of Jokic, and only 7 voted for Shai. Which brings us to our third ingredient in the MVP. Narratives. Beyond what you do on the court, the story has to be in your favor as well. And at the moment, every narrative is beaming directly at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to become this season's most valuable player. First and foremost, he is the best player on the best team, a formula that has led to more MVPs than any other. While Jokic is fighting the uphill battle of voter fatigue, Shai is ripe to receive his first MVP. He's not just having a
Now, if Shai is going to win MVP, the fans are going to go crazy. One, you have Shai fans who are going to praise him like he's a god or something, and that he deserved it. But in my humble opinion, I think it's so close that I can't even pick one. If I were to pick one, I would pick Jokic just off stats alone. Jokic fans are going to, if he wins, they're going to call him one of the greatest players of all time because he's in the top 25, in my opinion, maybe not yours, but he's in the top 25 of all time. If you want to say no, just look at stats. He's averaging a triple-double right now. He has 1 ring, 1 finals MVP, 3 MVPs, which is hard to come by even in the top 75. Like, you look at Allen Iverson, who never won a ring, averaged 30-plus points more than one time, played almost every minute of the entire game with 1 MVP and took his team to the finals. Yes, AI might have valued more, or is more valuable to the Philadelphia 76ers in the 2000s, but it's way different now than it was then. Jokic is just he's such a valuable player that even if there was like a trade that happened, I don't even think a team would take him. That's how valuable he is.
Great season, he's having an all-time great individual season. He plays both sides of the ball. He is the leader of the NBA's brightest young team, and in a league that's been searching for a fresh face, Shai is front and center. SGA has what I consider to be the perfect MVP resume this season. He checks every single box for what you would want in your most valuable player. He has the marquee performances, he has the momentum, he has the caliber, and of course, he's never won it before. But narratives can also lead us astray. They can allow our emotions to dictate how we perceive what we are actually seeing. And that's where precedence gives us points to reference in search for the most fair and accurate conclusion. It allows us to not be prisoners of the moment, but instead consider the history of the game and the unwritten rules we've abided by up to this point. Precedence tells us that no matter how great a player is, winning 4 MVPs before making it to the finals even twice is completely unheard of, even for the greatest players to ever play. For this same reason, voter fatigue is a frustrating but very real thing. If the MVP award purely went to the most valuable player in the league every season, Michael Jordan and LeBron would each be sitting on about 8 of them right now. Instead, the award sort of blends from one season to the next, taking in the context of everything that came before it and the consequences of it. Decades ago, MVP voters decided that the award was not reserved for the best player or even the player having the best season. Instead, it was an award that had multiple ingredients, multiple boxes that needed to be checked off. But even by their own criteria, what qualified a player to be the MVP was changing all the time. If it was simply the player having the best season, Michael Jordan would have won it about 8 times. If it was the best player on the best team, Michael Jordan would have won it about 8 times. But instead, he has 5, which has essentially set a firm benchmark on how voters vote for the foreseeable future. Voters messed up by not rewarding MJ with the number of MVPs he rightfully earned, and so every player that came after him is held to the same arbitrary, convoluted standard. As one fan put it, sports writers regret not giving Jordan all the MVPs and now punish everyone after that like it's a Supreme Court case and not just something they could change at any time. A case of we do it.
So, when you look at it this way, LeBron to the Cavs, he was the most valuable player in the league. He should have won it as many times as people voted for him. His 2 tenures, his first one in the Cavs, he brought the team to the finals. Name any other All-Star on the Cavs that wasn't LeBron or Big Z. You can't. I don't even think Big Z was an All-Star. You had a bum roster that you took to the finals. Same thing Derrick Rose did. He wasn't in the finals, though, because he got beat out. by Miami. But Miami was a super team against a young star and a young team, I think. The most valuable player award, it's not to the best, who's on the best team, who's putting up great numbers for the best team. Yeah, that matters a lot to the MVP race. But in my personal opinion, I feel like that the MVP race is very dumb. Very dumb. Voters, as Jay explained, voters fatigue is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Karl Malone has 2 MVPs, even though he was averaging 25, 10, which is 10 rebounds, which a lot of other players have done with assists. We've had multiple players with triple-doubles who haven't won it. Triple-double seasons, not just regular games, triple-doubles. Jokic has had one of the most phenomenal seasons, putting up multiple triple-doubles. He has like 30 this season, putting up the first ever 30-20-20, which Russ almost did, but he had a 20-20-20, which is also one of the most impossible feats to do in history. Now, statistically, Shaq, who, really off topic, he only has 1 MVP, even though he should have won it numerous times, because he was averaging above 25, like 4 blocks per game as a rookie. He should have won it then. But no. Guess who won it? Michael Jordan. You want to know why? Because he was the most valuable player to the team. Yes, they went to the finals. They three-peated twice. Okay, sure. Yeah, he makes him a very valuable player to the team. But Jokic is, I would say, as valuable as MJ was to the Bulls. Because the Bulls without MJ, yeah, they might have won like 20 games. The Nuggets without Jokic, they would be the worst team in the league. Chicago might have been not the worst team, but still one of the worst teams. If Michael Jordan would have lost one final, then the entirety of MVPs, the GOAT debate, everything would be changed. He lost. If he went 5-1, the entire GOAT debate, the entire MVP thing, voters fatigue, if he lost one MVP, it would be all false. Yeah, it might be true today and back then, but the entire thing is stupid. It's just dumb. If you look at it in my opinion, I've said that like 7 times now. In my opinion, the MVP should be the most valuable player in the league. Not on a team, in the league. So how many wins does this player give to their certain team? What are their stats and their efficiency? That's my opinion. But the league isn't going to take my opinion because I'm a random kid. But they should really consider it because the way they're doing it now is pointless. It's pointless. Their fan ratings are going to go through the roof with whoever wins because this is the greatest MVP race of our time.
This way because we've always done it this way. The MVP award should be given to the most valuable player in the league, but it's not quite that simple, and it never has been. To make the argument that Jokic deserves the MVP because he is
I promise I did not watch this video before it. You would have saw the red bar underneath. I'm a magician.
Objectively having the best season in basketball right now would be the most logical conclusion. But it would also be ignoring the 78 years of history, tradition, and expectations that we have come to follow. Based on the responses to this discussion so far, it appears that now more than ever, the players and the people involved in the NBA from game to game view the award as a reflection of simply who is the best, most impactful player. And the media looks at it through the lens more of story and narrative. And in the end, it is the media who gets to vote. With less than a month left in the regular season, the race for the MVP only seems to be getting tighter with each game. And in what is shaping up to be the greatest MVP battle we have ever seen, voters will have to either stay the course and vote for a player that has built a near perfect MVP case, or make a rare exception to a player that is quite possibly having the most impactful individual season in modern NBA history.
So, I've already spoken on my opinion. I want to hear your opinions in the comments about this race. I don't have any expectations for this video. I'm expecting 0 views, 0 subscribers, 0 likes. But I want to give you guys my opinion on the race. My opinion, I just told you. If you don't remember, go back and watch the whole video. But in this case, the most valuable player should be Jokic. That's my take. That's my vote. So thank you for watching. I'll try to get an upload schedule. If I can't, then just check my channel every once in a while, and there should be more videos to come. Anyways, hope you have a great rest of your day.